One of the most beautiful gardens that I have ever seen was over, I believe it was Georgia. I was a little bitty kid when I was there. And I think it's called Callaway Gardens. And, everywhere you look, everything was perfection. The trees were in the right place. The bushes were in the right place. All of the flowers of every color imaginable were just kind of in the perfect place. Whoever designed this did an excellent job. There was a crystal clear stream running through this one spot right next to a chapel that I remember. I remember playing in that stream and getting in trouble because my mother thought a snake would come get us. And it reminded me of the Garden of Eden. Because of her fear of the snake, I think is probably what took me there. But it got me thinking about that, and for some reason, that pops back into my memory actually this morning. This had nothing to do with the topic that I was going to talk to you about. But we're going to go there. Other than this beauty, the only thing different from that and the Garden of Eden, I think, were the two characters, Adam and Eve. Some people will argue with me and say that God wasn't here, but he was there. Well, that's wrong. God is everywhere present, all-powerful, in every cell of every living creature and every inanimate object. God is everywhere. So, as I was sitting in that chair right back there this morning, just kind of going over what I was going to talk about, this popped in, and this train of thought is just going to happen, so I don't know where we're going to go with it all. The Garden of Eden is actually within every one of us. It is that place that is absolutely beautiful, absolutely perfect. It can look like that Callaway Gardens if you so choose to make it. It can look like whatever your image of a perfect garden is. But it's not out there somewhere. It's right here within us. Like I said, God is in every cell of our body. And there is where the garden is. That place that we connect fully with God, that place that we are one with God, is the Garden of Eden. Now, if that's true, these are my thoughts, and if that's true, what then is the snake that causes us to reach out and go for the tree of knowledge, take the forbidden fruit? That's our ego. Because like the snake, the ego says, you will find no answers here. All of your answers are out there somewhere. That fruit wasn't evil. It was the fact that the snake convinced them that they had to look somewhere away from God to get their answers, to find their wisdom. Our ego does that to us every single day. Anytime we think we need an aspirin, that's ego trying to pull us away. Granted, we might have a headache, and sometimes an aspirin may help, but your answers are within. Every time we feel sad, the ego has us going out. Oh, maybe I better go get some ice cream. That's our favorite. Maybe we need to go down here to the local bar and have a few drinks to knock off the edge of this, whatever this is. Maybe we need to go buy some new clothes. Maybe we need to do. The ego has us going outside. The wisdom and the knowledge that we need to go to new levels is within us. It always has been, it always will be. Now, the ego is a very powerful thing. When the first day I sat up here and talked to you guys, I showed you the example of the rose being covered with all the clay as an example of what ego does to essence. Essence being the pure part of you, the connection of God, the spiritual you. Ego convinces us that nothing good can come from within. It's a liar. Ego convinces us that to go within is going to be painful. It's a liar. Ego convinces us that even if that rose really is in there, even if that essence really is, even if God really is within, oh, just to look in there is going to hurt. You better not. So go out there. And we go out there. We've all done it at some point in our life. We look outside of us for an answer. And we get something that kind of feels okay, so we go again. And we go again, and we go again, and we go again. If we allow this pattern to continue, this is what leads into addictions. Now let's talk about addictions for a moment. Addictions can be alcohol, drugs, sex. Obviously, those are the big ones that people talk about all the time. Gambling pops in there that people talk about all the time. It can also be shopping. It can also be music. It can also be going to the doctor to find your answers. You can be addicted to anything. Anything that makes you feel like just a little bit more of that's going to make me okay is an addiction. And self-help work can be an addiction. You know, a lot of us get tied up, and I think we talked about it last week a little bit. We get tied up in always studying and always reading and always trying to learn more and more and more, and many of us don't ever even put any of it into use. We never take the first step with it. When we have that kind of behavior in our lives, we are in an addiction mode. We're relying on just the fact that we looked out there to fix us. Okay, with self-help, with church, with with anything that could possibly be good for you, you've got to take action. You've got to put it into the works and make it work for you. I would love to say that you have to come here every Sunday and listen to me to figure out how to live your life perfectly. It's not true. It never will be true. So if I ever get the big head and start talking like that, slap me around, tell me, because that's not true at all. Okay? You have to have that connection for yourself. And in truth, when you have that connection, you no longer need this place. You no longer need any church. You no longer need any self-help because you've got that connection. This place, once you have that connection, becomes a support. It becomes a way for you to serve. It becomes a way for you to feel the love and share the love. This place, my goal as a minister, my goal with this church is to offer helpful hints that cause you to remember who you really are, that cause you to go within for all of your answers, that cause you to live fully in the love of God so that every action you take just extends the love of God even further. That's why I'm here. I'm not here to fix anybody. I can't. We can't do that. You have to go back to your own Garden of Eden for your answers, because that's where your answers are. I can only give you a little helpful hint, like today, reminding you about the Garden of Eden being within you. So go there. When you go there, you will realize that you are spiritual beings. Absolutely incredible spiritual beings having a pretty awesome human experience. Okay? Talked about that a little bit in our meditation this morning. What if I were to tell you that your body means absolutely nothing? In the truth of you, your body is simply, in the Way of Mastery teaches us this, your body is only a communication device. On this plane, we have somehow moved away from our spiritual communications, which require no words, no bodies to make that happen. Some of you have the ability to communicate with others without the use of words and talking. On that spiritual level, communication is so deep that words just aren't adequate. Feelings are not adequate. I can't sit here and describe what it is. I have felt it, but to describe it, I would do it no justice whatsoever. So as spiritual beings, these bodies are simply communication devices. Now, somewhere along that road, we got real serious about what happens to this body. We got real serious about this body has to do this and has to do this and it must feel this and it must do. We started putting all these rules and regulations on it. Well, just think about it. Every time you run into that, every time you feel like you have to do something, every time you feel like you need something, check back in with the spiritual self. Check back in with God. Go back to your Garden of Eden. Do you really need that? Is that going to put a pressure on you that you don't need in your life right now? Is that going to benefit your truth? Is that going to add to your highest good? Or is it going to detract from all of that? All of a sudden, the decision to go spend $1,000 on some sort of investment becomes pretty easy. If I spend $1,000 and nothing comes from it, but it adds to my highest good, do it. If I spend $1,000 on that, and even if it does come to fruition, it doesn't add to my highest good, don't do it. I can put $1,000 over here and get $1 million, but if that doesn't add to my highest good, it's not something I need to be looking at. So knowing your spiritual self allows you to move through this life easier, less stressful, much more peaceful, much more loving. So learn what that is. One of the other things the ego does that prevents us from doing that is it causes us to consider what everybody else thinks. I saw a quote this week on Facebook, I believe it was, and I read it, and then by the time I got back to it, now I've lost it on my page here. I think it's right. By the time I got back to it, I forgot. By the time I remembered, I forgot where I'd seen it, so I don't know who to give credit to. You will never find your truth looking to others for your answers. Your truth lies solely within you. Our ego is a tricky little dude or dudette. It really convinces us that what other people think really matters. Now, I'm going to use Kathy as an example since she's in my life every day, all the time. I really do care what she thinks. I don't want to hurt her feelings. But I get away from my spiritual self if I allow her dislike of something to prevent me from doing something that serves my highest good. Okay? If I let somebody stop me from doing what is best for me, I have given in to my ego. Fortunately, Kathy is very supportive. You guys have seen that. I mean, who else would one week just be showing up for church and the next week be going, I'm a minister's wife, without much time to think about it. Allowing other people to determine what we do cheats us. We stop ourselves all too often from taking a step that could change the world. I always go back to the Bill Gates and the Michael Jordans and thousands of great musicians. If they would have listened to people around them, there's a good chance we wouldn't have a lot of them in our world. Think about Bill Gates. He was launching a venture that was unheard of. Steve Jobs is in the kind of the same boat here. They were launching things that were unheard of at the time. There had to be people around them going, dude, man, this is going to cost you a fortune. It's going to bankrupt you. There's no way this will work. It's a pie in the sky. There's no telling what they heard. Yet they kept going. They kept going, and they created these amazing tools for all of us. Musicians, I kind of grew up in just on the outskirts of the music industry. Kind of jumped in a little bit every once in a while, and I met a lot of these folks. And there's a lot of great musicians out there that we see and we go, oh man, they're so good. They're great people, and they are weird. There's some weird folks in the music industry. They have some weird thoughts processes. They've got some, and I say weird in the most loving way because it's just simply that they think about life differently than we do. But these guys, and I know some of them. I've got a very good friend on, he's up on Broadway. I've got a great friend who is an artist. And I remember people looking at them like there was something wrong with them because they were just a little different than the rest of us. They chose to live their truth. Now, I didn't realize it then. I would like to sit here and say I never was mean to them. I don't think I was, but I'm not going to rule it out, because I did buy into what the social scene was doing. These guys stuck true to themselves.
I think Benjamin Franklin said the biggest thing about him, he failed like 1,000 times trying to make a light bulb.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And he said, well, I know 1,000 ways not to, but
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And there's actually 10,000 ways not to make a light bulb. But, I would have given up after three attempts, on something like that. But I'm not interested in that kind of stuff. But he stuck it out. He believed in him. He knew that what this spark that he felt within him for this idea, he allowed that to grow instead of letting people shut it down. That after, literally, I guarantee you, after 100 attempts without success, or what would be termed a success, people were starting to tell him, you have got to be nuts. You're going to try this again? And yet he did it nearly 10,000 times. And finally created the light bulb and was able to say, I know 10,000 ways not to make a light bulb. That's the way we live our life. If you believe in it, if you're passionate about it, go for it. Do it. Live it. And it doesn't have to be going to create a new light bulb. It doesn't have to be going to play music. It doesn't have to be sports or creating a new computer. In everyday life, whatever you choose to do, if you're doing it because of your love, if you're doing it because it's serving you or someone else and you feel great about that, do it. But if you've got a laundry list of things to do and not one of those things appeal to your spiritual self, if not one of those things serves your highest purpose, shred your list and start over. There's nothing wrong with that. We didn't come here, we didn't choose to be on this plane saying we've got to do this. We chose to be on this plane to experience this plane. There is some teaching, and I wish I could remember who it was now. There's teaching that we are simply God experiencing life as this person, as this body. We're still our spiritual self, which is part of the wholeness of God. These bodies are simply an experience. It's a way to experience. And knowing that, what's good and what's bad, what's right and what's wrong. It's an experience. Now, I do not sit here and tell you to go out and start shooting up the mall. That does not serve your highest good. That does not extend love to others or to yourself. That's what we talked about most last week, was extending love. When we come from our spiritual self, when we truly act and behave from that spiritual place, everything we do is extending love. So, your challenge this week, if you choose to accept it, is find a way to live from your spiritual self, to allow that to guide you as opposed to the body guiding you. Live from your spiritual self. That's your truth. That's the part of you that goes on forever. These bodies are going to fade away. The spiritual self goes on forever. So let the spiritual self have the control. And let this body that's only temporary just kind of go along for the ride.